All the trees all sway to rhythm, and the children play the rhythm, and the birds flap their wings and rhythm too. Oh.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Shukaboa 100% Vanilla Baby, where I'm trying to make the least vanilla 100% vanilla city you've ever seen in your entire life. Let's load up our last save. As always, I'd like to say thank you, gracias, obrigado, and merci to new Shukaboa citizens. Toto of 947, George D, Battle Cattle Damage, Baiman, FCBR, Zostos, Fabio Spataro, Urtus Cities, Andres Fulda, Citizilla, Fitrol Set, Mallet, C. McKenzie 76, Cities by Steven, Thaddeus Dodd, Sunken Ship, Matt Green, Zabu Zabu, Ryan Joseph Haywood, Christian Pualich, Twin Fish, and David Sen. On the honor roll today, we have Valley Lad Gaming and Gaming Bren, plus a bonus of cats and dogs. We've got an enormous group today, so that means lots of custom naming since every new citizen gets a special building in Shukaboa. Let's take a look at what we did last episode and a half. In no particular order, we remade the Felipe G National Forest with the new Mr. Mason trees after having altered the existing Vanilla River to look more realistic and interesting. On the other side of the forest, we added a parallel viaduct that tunnels through Opie Mountain, which allows the native bisons and cougars to roam freely underneath. We did a simple highway modification by throwing in a curve to the existing Scroggins Highway, all easily done without the use of Parallel Road Tool or Move It or any other mods. We also made this lovely organic high-density neighborhood of Bookmark Hill, which includes modern city center commercial assets and a public library. To begin today's mega episode, we're going to make some interchanges to connect several highways together, and this is going to be a very fast-paced project. The techniques are nothing we haven't done before, and I think the design will be unique and highly functional. If this sort of project seems challenging for you to do without mods, or even with mods, I recommend you watch my previous episode where I discuss highway and terrain techniques in some detail. I won't talk too much during this interchange build, and if it's going too fast for you at any point, I suggest using the YouTube playback speed function to slow it down. I did my absolute best to make this video edit as smooth and easy to watch as possible. It took almost 2 weeks of editing and over 1,200 different speed change cuts to the original video, so I really hope it's easy for you to watch how I join 5 different highways together here. Check out this new buy soil feature. Let's do a price comparison. If we take from the mountain, wow, that's getting expensive for not that much, so let's buy. Look here, the pillars are perfectly aligned, but won't fit nicely with a curved highway underneath. So we've got to get our pillars on a diagonal, and to do that I'm going to stagger my guideline nodes. See how that worked? Now the highway can go curving underneath without the pillars getting in the way. Let's do it again for a third bridge. Ay caramba, a secret little bush. With roundabouts, it's always very important to get 8 nodes if possible, to allow vehicles to make lane changes. The AI changes lanes at nodes, and without 8, there's a possibility of a complete traffic jam if they're not able to change lanes. Now, I had drawn these gravel paths many months ago thinking it would be a good place for a highway, and now we've changed things up. Should we still do it? I say yes. Now we've got to get a four-way interchange in here somehow. There's lots of angles for ramps, but I think to make any more connections, it's gonna look like spaghetti really quickly. So let's do something away from there that takes advantage of the existing terrain. Now sometimes if you've got a curved overpass over a curved highway, pillar alignment can be extra tricky. I'm going to try to get around this by making the underpass highway a bridge as well, and then building my overpasses before returning the underpass back to normal. This will be our tightest spots with two ramps so close to each other, so we want to make sure there's always at least one lane change node between any two ramps. Alright, this is our triple trumpet interchange system. I think it looks pretty cool. It does take up a lot of land, but any large interchange does. In this empty plot of land in the middle, let's dig a small valley. Okay, maybe it's not a proper valley, but that's okay. We'll name this interchange system for our first honor roll member, Valley Lad Gaming. Valley Lad had given the new Oshukapografia series a great shout in one of his recent episodes of his Anglesey series, and he's just started Livetopia, a weekly live city build you should definitely check out. We've got a brand new highway, and that needs a brand new name. Let's name this the Gaming Bren Expressway, after our second honor roll member. Bren has a great build called Vanilla City that is being done in Roslyn Peninsula, and they've named a major parkway in the city the Shukaboa Parkway. Bren demonstrates great technique in the vanilla mechanics to get smooth parallel highways, so be sure to check out the channel. Okay, on to the next project. This is going to take some major preparation if we're going to name over 20 buildings in this episode. As I've been playing, I've been noticing the traffic pressure being created by our Canal Sala de Jogos Agronomia farm industry over here in Farmington. So I think it's time we relocate our fields to somewhere more rural. Over here by the edge of our tile looks to be the best place for a new farming area. In order to move our assets over, we'll have to extend the boundaries of the agronomia. I could cut it in half, but I'd prefer not to. So let's keep it connected. I'll do a quick fade so we don't get dizzy watching this process. And now I can clear out the old infrastructure of this section of Farmington a bit and make preparations for our new neighborhood. Seguin Boulevard will now connect into the roundabout that intersects with the Bruno B. Bridge Viaduct. Here's a kind of wonky spot for intersections, so let's add a small roundabout, making sure to still add 8 nodes. I still want to leave some of the agricultural activity over here, but we'll have to redo some of the road connections to the boulevard. And now it's time for Inspiration Station. Welcome to Inspiration Station, also known as Google Earth. Today we'll return to the hometown of Xuca the Cat, Lisboa, Portugal. If we zoom in on this part of the city called Santo Amaro, we see some familiar sights. The suspension bridge and viaduct, the tram depot, and a neighborhood on a hill. This neighborhood is modest in size with mid-rise buildings, and you can see the remnants of a farming district here at the Agronomy Institute. Moving into the Alcântara Terra Valley, we see a train station and some highway and rail connections that go through. Although if we follow them, they end up getting spaghettified not too far down the line. Now we'll just do some road layout and terrain preparation. No plan at all, just trying to make reasonable blocks without too many junctions that might cause an excess of traffic. Let's put down our first infrastructural asset, this Content Creator Pack train station. I think this narrow strip of land between the boulevard and the highway could be utilized for a rail connection. So far we only have the Yuctobania train station by Canal Heights, and it receives way more people than it can reasonably handle. To make a rail connection to our new neighborhood, we'll have to do a little bit more terrain work to tie into the main line. I'd like to have two truss bridges next to each other because I think that would look extremely gangster. And by gangster I mean cool, if that isn't obvious. I think it's important to detail with structural elements, buildings, and terrain as much as with props. Okay, this train station is certainly going to get a lot of people coming, and right now, they only have their pocket cars to leave with. So let's add a subterranean metro station right next to it that we could tie into the Hoodie Ninja 274 metro hub in Balcon. Look what happens when I lower the terrain here. You can see the actual metro tunnel sticking out. But we don't want to hide our metro line entirely, so let's set it up so we have a short stretch on the surface so that we can enjoy watching our metro trains go back and forth. Womp 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 womp. That is absurd tunnel work. Whoever did that should be fired. Let's make it better. Now that looks better. We will have to rework this road from Bookmark Hill we removed for the tunnel though. Back to the new neighborhood again. Let's add our walking path connections for pedestrians so they can get around with ease. Okay, time to name stuff, finally. Let's name this train station asset for Totov 947. Since he's got a French language channel with English subtitles, we'll call the station the Gare de Totov 947. Battle Cattle Danage will get the metro station because he's a seedy character, but we all appreciate his important service to transport infrastructure. This European police station will be named for Zosdos. This firehouse, will be named for Otis Cities. I'm not ready to translate into German yet though, so it'll still stay as firehouse. Although the European elementary school is a Schule, so I don't know, we'll name this the Cityzilla Elementary. Here we can put Mallet MD. And Cities by Steven can get this elder care, which I think looks great near the old 1x1s of Farmington Village. Let's plop this skate park down and call it the Zabo Zabo Skate Park for Rad Skaters. I think a road maintenance depot named for Christian P. will go very well near the train station. And then likewise, a taxi depot right next to it named for David S. Let's get a big water tower at the roundabout and sort out our pipes before we forget. We can name the tower for George D. Near the Cityzilla Schule, let's put in the Baiman FCBRI climbing frame. And the Fabio S. Gazebo. We can't zone on the roundabout because it's highway, but we can place a park cafe, which we'll call the Andreas F. Cafe. Now ships have a better beacon when entering the canal. Over in Roman Square, let's add a road maintenance depot by the other roundabout. We'll call it the C. Mackenzie 76 Road Maintenance Depot. And here we can add a clinic called the Thoughtiest Thought Clinic. Ay caramba, what a name. What a name. Okay, back in the new neighborhood, we'll put down a gazebo here and call it the Matt G Gazebo. Here we'll place the Ryan J.H. Cafe. A little bit of competition for Andreas F. on the other side of the roundabout. Okay, let's do the Matthew G. Fire Watch Tower right over here. Sunken Ship and Twin Fish, yours are coming a bit later, don't worry. Let's clean up our new agricultural area just a bit, just so that screenshots don't look too bad. We won't really dive into this project yet, but I want to place them nicely so that from a distance it looks presentable. And most importantly, so that they actually work once I unpause the game. We'll add in a little bit of random slopes in the new build city style, because I think that'll give a really nice rural feel. Let's name the new farming area Campo de 300, which means Field of 300. Because I got 300 subscribers! Ay caramba! Very honored that the community is growing here and that so many of you are always visiting to see what's going on in the city. It means much more to me to be a small channel with very dedicated viewers than a large and impersonal channel. So everyone who's part of the city and channel means a lot to me. Again, thank you very much for being here. Let's redraw a new district in the old and very large Farmington. This will now be Farmington Hills, since we got some hills. I'll do a quick fade while I spend the next several hours zoning and detailing the area. Alright, it's been exactly 60 years to the day, and we have returned to the brand new Farmington Hills neighborhood. A high-density residential district with some low-density commercials sprinkled around. It's inspired by the real-life neighborhood of Alcântara and Santo Amaro in Lisboa, and most buildings are mid-rise, although I added some tall ones for urban texture and skyline. Of course, there are lots of trees and vegetation, but I was extremely careful to only place vegetation in the fertile soil areas, because trees permanently remove the fertile soil, and I want to preserve it as much as possible, even if we won't use it for farming anymore. I'm really loving the vanilla detailing capabilities now with the new Mr. Mason trees. Pairing them with vanilla vegetation allowed me to try my most realistic field so far, and really gave life to the Valley Lad triple trumpet. Taking a look, we can see that over the course of 60 years, basically everything is leveled up to maximum. And we still have earned about $2.5 million. Not a huge amount for 60 years, but we did just add 20 plus buildings with budgets. So I think that's still pretty good. Pretty good. Now, I had missed two important names on the list before, so let's add some buildings for them right now. We'll put the small emergency shelter here by the avenue. Disasters are turned off for now, but I think that it's important we still have this. And we'll name it the Twin Fish Emergency Shelter. Here by Farmington Plaza, we'll add a post office. And we'll call it the Sunken Ship Post Office. This will bring everyone some happiness because people like mail. Well, postcards at least. Not the bills. Nobody likes bills. Let's do a quick time lapse through the night to see the city light up. Now take a look at the trains. I know some people are big into trains, talking to you, Just Kano. So I want to show how the commuter line and the intercity trains interact with the new station. Now, what started as a little remark I made during a premiere live chat on Ladies in the City has become a bonus naming round, where some pets will get special parks. We'll start with the cats of Hein and S, and rename his original dog park after his cats Mikar and Wonwon. Hein told me that Mikar was Wonwon's mother, but now she's no longer with us. So, in the new cat park, we'll plant some nice blossoming trees in memory of Mikar, the mama cat. Now we can add a dog park over in Bookmark Hill and call it the S'mores Cat Park for Raid Kitty's kitty. Over in Inlet Park, there's an unnamed dog park, so we'll call this the Obama Cat Park for Zabo Zabo's cat. Let's see, we could put a dog park over here in the old Farmington and call it Anasazi Bean Dog Park for the adorable pup of Joy Built Cities. We can clear a spot in Roman Square for the Brody, Kane, and Maggie Park for dogs and cats. These are Grottle's furry friends. Here in Farmington Village, we can add the Rocky Balboa Dog Park, named for Sunken Ship's dog. Ay caramba, I'm running out of dog park locations. Let's see. How about by the Delroy Public Pool we put in the Zack the Jack Dog Park for Just Kano's doggo. This episode was very long, but we accomplished a lot. I can't tell you how much longer it took to produce this video than my typical episodes, and I will try to avoid such massive single episodes in the future. There are a lot of areas to expand in what comes next, so tell me what you want. We can redevelop the original Chupinha Center to get rid of these random houses. We can work on the Campo de Trezentos. We can go to Opie Mountain, or set up the industrial rail yard and ore harbor over at Sector Golf. Maybe we can start work in Sector Charlie or Sector Delta. There is always Isla Isaura, the big open center, or Sector Alpha over in Il Cachalot. Now that we've got some infrastructure laid out, we really can choose where to go next. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Shukaboa 100% Vanilla Baby, and I'll see you next time.